Are you stuck on what to play this weekend? I found some insane deals on games that are sure to fill up your hours, and they're going for next to nothing right now. They're all on massive discounts on Steam, and who knows, they might be slashed on PlayStation or Xbox too. So if you're looking for some cheap but really good games, make sure to finish this video. By the way, I'm not sure how long these discounts will be available, but most of them will expire by November. So, let's get started with Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire is going for like 66% off right now. That's insane for a game that perfectly blends deck building with roguelike mechanics. You think about card games, and sure, your brain might immediately go to Pokemon or Magic, but Slay the Spire really brought something fresh to the table. It's this constant tension, right? You're building your deck, figuring out combos on the fly, all while being relentlessly pushed forward by random encounters. Every run feels different, and not always because of the cards. It's the unpredictability of the enemies, the relics. It's got that just one more run appeal. Now, if you're into strategy, you're constantly thinking 2 or 3 turns ahead, but it's not all smooth going. Sometimes RNG will smack you in the face and make sure your best plans crumble, but maybe you come out on top and feel like a genius. That's where it digs into your brain and doesn't let go. The art style might throw some people at first glance, though. It's not pushing any technical limits. You're not here for fancy graphics. You're here for adrenaline-loaded decision-making. The dev team, Megacrit, nailed that pacing, incredibly addicting loops that make the price cut a no-brainer. And even crazier when you remember, they're a pretty small studio who carved out this niche of roguelike deck builders when not many were doing it. Next up is Tribes of Midgard. I don't know about you, but Tribes of Midgard kind of snuck up on me when it first dropped. It's got this blend of survival, co-op, and action RPG elements baked into Norse mythology, which is already a recipe most of us can't resist. The game splits between these two modes, survival and saga, both pretty different in pacing. In the saga mode, it's this frantic rush to prepare your base, gather resources, and gear up to face off against Jotnar that come running in to destroy your village. You've got a ticking clock always in the back of your head since Nightfall brings worse enemies and suddenly things get hectic fast. The day-night cycle makes the difference between being the ultimate hero and just another casualty amidst giants. With friends, that experience just ramps up even more. You're split between helping your team and working on your own builds, which offers loads of replayability. Now, this thing is sitting at a 70% discount, which feels kind of wild considering the amount of content they've been pumping into it since launch. New saga seasons, cosmetic rewards, and even balancing tweaks. There's an odd satisfaction that comes with a well-defended village standing tall after a brutal fight, and the progression loop taps into that gamer brain hook real nice. Another great deal right now is Child of Light. I am telling you, Child of Light is currently sitting at a 70% discount, and that's just unbelievable for the kind of experience it offers. It's a game that somehow feels part classic fairy tale, part turn-based RPG, all wrapped in this watercolor painting art style that's just... it's beautiful, really. You're playing as Aurora, this little girl who finds herself in the land of Lemuria, and right from the get-go, the musical score pulls you in. It's serene, haunting even, and knowing that it was developed by Ubisoft Montreal, this game has an indie game vibe that knew exactly what it was going for in the atmosphere department. Now, the combat is where the game manages to feel familiar yet fresh. It's got the Final Fantasy-style timeline mechanic, where actions are timed and certain moves can slow down or speed up characters on the battlefield. The cool part is the coordination. While you're controlling Aurora, there's also this firefly, Igniculus, you use in real time to heal or affect enemy timelines. It adds this nice layer of strategy without being overcomplicated. If there's anything that might throw people off, though, it's how the whole game is presented in rhyme. It sounds like it could be gimmicky, but it feels charming most of the time. With the discount, it's like getting lost in an illustrated storybook for next to nothing. Next up is Riders Republic. Now this game is 75% off, which feels ridiculous for how much pure chaos this game brings. We're talking massive open world sports. Everything from snowboarding to BMX biking, combined with a whole bunch of mayhem when you throw in 64-player races. The world feels alive, packed with things to do in every corner. And it's not this tiny map either. It's like a mashup of actual national parks. So you're shredding through Yosemite and Zion like it's nothing. The seamless blending between terrains is impressive, whether you're gliding down a snowy mountain or hitting dirt trails. What really stands out is the large-scale multiplayer events, and by large, it means pure madness. Picture barreling down a mountain, dodging 60 other players while wingsuits zipping by overhead. You've got chaos on all sides, and somehow it totally works. Now, it's not always perfect. Some of the repetitiveness of secondary challenges might weigh down those long play sessions if you're not switching up your sports enough. But the adrenaline kick, that's where it thrives, especially with friends. It's still weird to think that something this big, with so many different mechanics and locations crammed into it, is sitting there for 75% off right now. Would have thought it'd hold out for more. Another great deal is House Flipper, which is at 75% discount, which, let's be honest, feels like you're almost getting away with something. The premise is simple. You buy rundown homes, fix them up from absolute messes, and flip them for profit. There's something strangely satisfying in turning a wreck of a house filled with garbage and broken walls into this pristine living space. You start with a hammer and a mop, and the amount of joy that comes from just smashing down walls to open a room up is weirdly addicting. The customization runs deep here, though the game doesn't force a specific style. Want a minimalistic Scandinavian look? Go for it. Prefer some wild neon colors? Weird, but go ahead. There's a freedom that keeps things from feeling repetitive, even if the basic actions are pretty much the same in each job. Sure, there's a ton of cleaning, and yeah, some might find it a grind at times, picking up bottles, mopping floors, but once a house comes together piece by piece, it feels like you've really built something. It clicks with that part of your brain that craves progress. Plus, at 75% off, it's one of those games where you pay a little to get hours of laid-back gameplay without pressure. Coming in next is The Escapist 2. So, The Escapist 2 takes the whole Prison Break genre and turns it into this addictive, puzzle-filled sandbox. It's not your typical action-packed escape game. Instead, you're figuring out how to blend in, follow the routine, and plan your breakout without raising alarms. You've got to attend roll calls, do prison jobs, and slowly gather the tools or allies you need to make your escape. Every prison layout feels like its own little puzzle box, and you're the one figuring out how to unlock it. Now, it's this balance between the mundane, everyday tasks and the calculated planning of your escape that keeps things fresh. Walking around, acting like nothing's going on, knowing you've secretly got a hole behind your toilet or a stash of tools hidden in the vents, makes every little action feel intense. By the way, The Escapist 2 is currently 80% off, which is crazy for the amount of customization and replayability stuffed into these prison walls. Whether you're trying to go solo or teaming up with friends, yeah, multiplayer's in this one, the game constantly has you thinking creatively about your next move. Plus, the variety of prisons range from super hardcore fortresses to more humorous setups, so there's always something new around the corner. It's like a puzzle fan's dream priced beyond cheap. The next deal you should check out is Overcooked. Just like The Escapist 2, Overcooked is 80% off right now, and it's basically the ultimate test of friendships, or its ultimate destroyer, depending on how you handle pressure. This chaotic co-op game throws you and your friends into a kitchen that's constantly working against you. Whether it's on a pirate ship or in a haunted house, you're chopping, frying, and serving dishes as the environment shifts around you. The game moves fast, so you're yelling orders, running all over the place trying to handle cooking assignments before your kitchen goes up in flames, quite literally. There is a single-player mode, which splits the tasks between your chefs. But honestly, most players will tell you it's pretty hard to handle everything solo. It's designed around chaos and coordination, and that's where it turns into a recipe for laughter, or sometimes, disaster when playing with friends or family. The levels keep ramping up in difficulty, with obstacles like moving floors, conveyor belts, and other wild mechanics that just keep you on your toes. That 80% discount makes this game a steal, considering how much entertainment you're squeezing out of it. Whether you're teaming up or maybe cursing at friends as the pot boils over, it's super easy to keep coming back for the laugh-out-loud co-op. Next up is MudRunner. MudRunner is one of those games where you don't expect to get sucked in as much as you do. It's all slow burn strategy, guiding beaten down trucks through muddy, unpredictable terrain. Sure, you've got SnowRunner and Expeditions, a MudRunner game now, each adding new layers and features to the formula. However, there's something about MudRunner that holds a certain charm, a simplicity you don't really find in the newer titles. It's that raw feeling of figuring out how to tackle tough terrain without too many bells and whistles attached. You can feel every bump, every skid, every moment when you're one wrong turn away from getting stuck for good. The game trusts you to understand the physics at play. It's not just about getting from point A to point B, it's figuring out how to approach every bend and hill, anticipating what the mud's gonna do to your truck, and planning your route bit by bit. And right now, you're looking at an 80% off deal, which feels especially cheap compared to the level of patience and detail this game demands. Even with those newer games out there, Mud Runner has this purity. No distractions, just you against nature. And when things finally go your way, it feels kinda special. It's like you're not just driving a truck, you're outsmarting a mess of mud, water, and muck. Another solid game is The Surge 2. Right now, The Surge 2 is 80% off, which honestly feels like stealing at this point. It's one of those games that came on the scene, did a lot of interesting things with the Souls-like genre, and somehow never got the follow-up it deserved. I mean, the Surge series plays with that sci-fi dystopian twist, but instead of just dodging and parrying like every other Souls-like, you've got limb targeting. You're literally picking apart enemies piece by piece, and that's not just a neat little gimmick. It's central to the game. You want that piece of gear? You better take out that enemy's arm with searing precision. It's a brilliant mix of satisfying combat and strategic looting. The level design is also wildly open compared to the first game. You're navigating this ruined city, Jericho, while figuring out how to use pathways, shortcuts, and vertical spaces to your advantage. It's clear there was a lot of growth between the Surge and the Surge 2, with the latter refining so much of what worked in the original. Still, it's a shame we haven't seen any new The Surge games. This was a series with so much potential, especially given the creative twist on the familiar formula. With the discount this deep, grabbing The Surge 2 just feels like a no-brainer for anyone even remotely into challenging action RPGs. Up next is For Honor. Medieval combat games are popping up all over the place, and For Honor is one of the standout names. You're dropped into huge battles where every swing of your weapon feels weighty, and positioning really matters. Unlike other melee-focused games though, For Honor isn't just hack and slash. It's all about this deep mastery of its nuanced combat system. The game forces you to lock into these intense duels where you're reading your opponent's movements, planning your own blocks and strikes. And there's something satisfying in that. Now, Chivalry 2 is another great medieval brawler out there, flying under the radars with its own brutal combat and mass battles. It's got a similar vibe in terms of chaos on the battlefield. However, if you're talking about being wallet-friendly right now, For Honor, sitting at an 85% discount, is the absolute steal in this moment. While Chivalry 2 does have a healthy discount going for it too, For Honor has been grinding for years, with constant free updates, new heroes, and balancing changes that kept it fresh and fun. So, if you're after some medieval mayhem on the cheap, For Honor offers a refined, tactical experience that feels especially sweet at this price point. This is one of the games that I really love, Sleeping Dogs. Right now, Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition is going for just $2.99 at an insane 85% off. It's one of those hidden gems that didn't get the attention it totally deserved when it first launched. It kind of slipped under the radar for many players, even though it brings so much to the table, especially with the combat. Coming off like a mix of martial arts flick and open-world action, the hand-to-hand fighting is where this game really shines. You're not just button mashing your way through enemies. You've got combos, counters, environmental takedowns, and the fluidity of the whole thing clicks real fast. You're playing as an undercover cop, Wei Shen, diving into the criminal underworld of Hong Kong, and every punch, kick, and throwdown feels grounded yet cinematic. It's wild how much detail the game put into the brawling system, especially compared to a lot of other open-world games that rely too heavily on gunplay. Grabbing an enemy and slamming him into a phone booth or tossing them through a fish tank is just as satisfying the 10th time as it is the first. Honestly, this is the kind of game you can't help but wish had a sequel, but given how things have been, it looks like that might not happen. Still, at $2.99, its smooth combat, gripping story, and memorable setting makes Sleeping Dogs feel like one of the biggest steals on this list. Another must-have game if you're into action-adventure is Just Cause 3. This game is one of those over-the-top, chaos-fueled games where the only way to play is to cause absolute mayhem. You're Rico Rodriguez, basically a one-man army with a wingsuit, grappling hook, and an entire country begging to be turned into your own personal playground for destruction. The open-world mayhem is the heart and soul of the game, whether you're blowing up military bases in the most spectacular way possible or zipping around with your grappling hook like it's second nature. Most people would say Just Cause 2 is the standout in the series. I get that. But for me, Just Cause 3 really finds the sweet spot. Sure, Just Cause 4 amps things up with balloons, jetpacks, and tethers, allowing you to get crazy creative in a way that no other game really offers. And yeah, the fun you can have just turning the sandbox into your own experiment lab with the physics in 4 is unmatched. If you don't mind the technical issues, plenty of those still lingered months post-launch. If you're into creating your own chaos and just screwing around, Just Cause 4 might be your thing, but if you want a bit of balance between sandbox craziness and structured missions, Just Cause 3 strikes the perfect balance. At 85% off, now down to $2.99 on Steam, this is probably the best time to dive back into blowing up everything in sight while wingsuiting through breathtaking landscapes. Next is Enslaved Odyssey to the West, which is also 85% off right now, and honestly, it's one of those games that never got the attention it deserved. It rocks this post-apocalyptic world with a sci-fi twist, but at its core, it's inspired by the Chinese novel Journey to the West, just like the overwhelming black myth Wukong. So if you don't have the budget for that one, this game is a fantastic alternative, especially at this price. You play as Monkey, dragging around a tech-savvy companion, Trip, while navigating this lush, overgrown world filled with remnants of humanity and some pretty intimidating robot enemies. The game masterfully blends action, platforming, and tactical combat where you've got to juggle your own abilities with guiding Trip through danger. The dynamic feels real, and as their relationship grows, you actually care about their survival, something a lot of games miss. The thing that really sticks with a lot of players, though, is the ending. It feels like they were setting the stage for more, but we never got that sequel. It's a cliffhanger that leaves a lot of room for more storytelling, but it seems the project was abandoned. Regardless, Enslaved Odyssey to the West remains a deeply engaging experience that's worth diving into, especially that it's just $2.99 right now. It's hard to ignore the narrative, world design, and heartfelt connection between this duo at just a few bucks. Next up is Hitman World of Assassination. If you love stealth games, then this one is a must. Hitman World of Assassination is an absolute steal at 90% off right now. The craziest part? Every location from Hitman 1 from 2016, Hitman 2, and Hitman 3 is included, along with all the updates and refinements they've made over the years. The visual upgrades, new features, and added content make this the most complete Hitman experience possible. But it's not just about the base game you're getting here. It also includes a bunch of DLCs and expansions, like the highly acclaimed 7 Deadly Sins collection. So basically, all those elusive targets, escalation missions, and bonus content are all here too. Whether you're familiar with it or not, the sheer scope of content in World of Assassination ensures hours upon hours of replayability, not to mention the surprise factor when trying new ways to complete objectives. With that 90% discount, having access to the entire collection of Hitman assassinations, missions, and all the creative ways to pull them off is a no-brainer. You've got the ultimate assassination toolkit right in front of you, waiting to be explored.
We've already shown we can deal with them.
And for the ultimate deal that I'll recommend, you have to check out Tomb Raider Trilogy on Steam right now. It is currently discounted at 94%. Making it hands down the best deal if you're into immersive, story-driven games. You're getting 3 massive adventures with Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider, all packed into one for a fraction of the price. These are linear games too, so if you like well-structured, story-focused experiences with a clear progression, this trilogy wraps it all up nicely. Each game comes with all its DLCs, so if you've been wanting to dive into the extra tombs, challenge modes, or costumes that came out over the years, they're all bundled into this already crazy deal. Not just the main games, but literally everything they've released for them. And in case you already own one or even 2 of the games from the trilogy, you can still catch up. Each one is currently slashed at an 85% discount if bought separately. So, you're still getting a massive bargain. With all the additional content packed in along with the main storylines, this trilogy keeps delivering beyond the core campaigns. Whether it's new tombs to explore or different game modes to tackle, grabbing this for 94% off is probably the best deal going on right now. So, that's all for this weekend's sale hunt. I plan to release similar videos every weekend, so if you want to see more game sales in the future, make sure to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any updates.